very aggressive play style, and it's got great CC and being able to just really jump onto your enemies and also peel for your own teammates with the Holy Nova. And you can't forget the heal that comes through, especially after you can get Echo on that heal, and you've just got 2 big bursts of heal. In comparison, we have Lyra, which, you know, you've got heal more often, but I really don't think it's as impactful unless it's utilized correctly and you're not taking so much damage from the enemy team, because Lyra can easily be overwhelmed in a lot of situations and doesn't have enough healing to go around for the whole team.
Definitely. I mean, Lyra provides very good early game sustain, but all in all, when it comes into the late game, Lyra just falls out as compared to Grace. However, in the early game, as long as NEBULAE can just push the Lyra's advantage to the best extent, allowing, you know, just Lyra has got a bright bulwark for the early game ganks, to stop early game ganks, but they will not be afraid of early game ganks with that Glaive being banned out and Lan's not in the fold as well. But Idris will be banned out for the side of J3X Inferno in response to Lyra being picked out. And all in all, I don't think Idris really is a threat at this point in time. In the previous game, J3X Inferno was on that Idris. Maybe they do not want NEBULAE to just pick up the Idris for themselves. So in this game itself, maybe Trophies will settle for that mage, but this is the first time, or the previous game, first time in a very long while to be seeing Trophies on a weapon carry. However, I'm not surprised if Trophies will just settle for maybe the Black Feather, or that could be a CP Black Feather. So a lot of flexibility in terms of the comp that's coming out from the side of NEBULAE.
Yeah, I mean, a bit different to we actually saw in an up way with Glaive being banned out first, but Idris second. But this leaves Scarf open onto the fold, and it will be picked up indeed. A very good pick for them to go with, and I'm sure alongside that, I was actually going to be expecting someone a bit more frontline, but I guess with the Black Feather already picked up, they're going to go for the Vox pick instead, which Vox is a very good late game hero as well. So you can see the synergy that's going to be able to work there. And Grace will probably have to more so just focus on protecting the Scarf, and Vox will be more so on his own, just using his own abilities, his Sonic Zoom, to get out of those situations. And yeah, I think that could really work out well. I like the team comp coming out from J3X Inferno this time a lot more than the previous match. But to finish off NEBULAE's team comp, they've gone for the Kestrel pickup. And I guess this, depending on which hero goes CP and which goes weapon power, can work out.
That Vox out of lane with your glimmer shots and your basic attacks. So I'm honestly, I'm just looking forward as to how Trophies will be like on this weapon Kestrel altogether. Weapon Kestrel, not exactly a terrible pick, or in fact, in the early game itself, like I said earlier on, you can just poke Vox out in the early game. But what I'm saying, or rather what I'm trying to say, is that whether or not Trophies will go for the basic attack weapon Kestrel build, or the one where you just rely on your glimmer shot to put out as much damage.
Yeah, so whether they go for a bit more basic attack or burst those glimmer shots will be the question, and we'll have to wait and see. And I think that personally in this situation, if they, depending on who they really want to focus down, I think burst could go quite well for them. And I do agree with you, the weapon power Kestrel in this situation being a lot better, but right now it looks like Sajin actually making his way into the enemy jungle, trying to steal away some farm, manages to pick up the healing tree and one of the backs, but now is getting focused down by Kahlua as well, who comes in with the Holy Nova, manages to land the knockup, but Sajin going to be able to take the first blood away as they take Scarf down before they fall themselves. So a bit of a trade out there, but also a bit of a win for Sajin and for the side of NEBULAE. And I think more than anything, the weapon power Kestrel just is so much more important into, well, throughout the whole game, laning up against, going to have that resonance damage, and if you're getting hit by that, you're not going to be able to go invisible when the enemy team is diving onto you. And as I said earlier, that Kahlua on this Grace will want to be very aggressive. I mean, it's just the general Grace playstyle that we always see. So going for the CP Kestrel would just be a bit more risky, as you're not able to use the active camo all the time.
Yep, definitely. But we do see Sajin once again maybe going on one-on-one with Amu's Blaze, but Kahlua will be finding him.
Oh, Sajin actually managing to steal that one. And there's going to be enough to get out of there alive. No, I'm not sure if that's worth Sajin risking their life over being able to steal that, as they ended up caught in a bit of a 1v3 situation. Of course, Doubtfire did make the rotation down, but wasn't enough. We still see Sajin ahead of Amox Blaze on that Scarf at this moment. Sajin sitting at 19 farm, and Amox Blaze still back at 13, so good job there. And meanwhile, up in lane, Truffy's also slightly ahead, 27, or NEBULAE actually up then, as I mentioned that after clearing this wave. But it looks like Truffy's taking a fair bit of this farm away from Sajin as well. So Sajin doing a good job to manage to keep up with Amox Blaze even while doing that. I'm not sure, I haven't been watching NEBULAE this match so much. Perhaps you would know if they've been going and doing the same tactics or not?
Nah, NEBULAE has been very religiously just sticking onto lane, and honestly, Amox Blaze on this, his name is so weird to say, but Sajin once again.
Sajin getting caught out in this. Might be able to escape, and it looks like they will. I'm not sure, it's just the rotation coming out from the side of J3X Inferno. They keep going down through that enemy jungle tri-bush and managing to catch out Sajin. There's going to be the bright ball to keep the enemies away for now, but Kalua going to jump in there with a Holy Nova, manages to knock up Sajin, and Sajin is going to go down to the goop, and Scarf managing to pick up that overall for them, and now are looking to push with the man advantage. I think Amox Blaze may stay up in the lane, at least to clear it, and no, they're going to go in completely. There's the Spitfire into the goop. Kalua going very deep, however, will get punished for it, gets stunned out and killed, and now Doubtfire needs to be careful, taking a fair bit of damage from Amox Blaze there, and NEBULAE alongside Amox Blaze trying to steal that farm. They managed to successfully, so this could be helping Amox Blaze get even with Sajin. Now we see him now making his way to 24 CS, just about right behind Sajin, who's sitting at 30.
Yep, although Sajin has been caught out up to about 3 times in the entirety of the game, but all in all, he is doing relatively well for himself, picking up a Shatter Glass 5 minutes in, not the fastest Shatter Glass I've seen, but all in all, it just pays off well. Amox Blaze still yet to get the tier 3 Izam, probably will settle for the Frostburn, and there you go. We see a Frostburn being picked up by Amox Blaze. And at this point in time, with level 6 and the Shatter Glass being picked up, Sajin can definitely put out a lot of pressure in dead of lane against NEBULAE.
Well, we'll see that just here as they dive in from out. In return, and it looks like Amox Blaze has joined the fight on this Scarf, but whether NEBULAE are going to back off from this one or not is the question. Amox Blaze still trying to put those Spitfires down, but they don't land quite. And no, Truffy's able to dodge that one out and return a lot of damage with the glare shot. So it looks like both teams just poking back and forth here. And you can see Sajin positioning themselves up in the top rush alongside Doubtfire, game ready to go in, and they go in with the Rose Offensive, but they walk right into the Holy Nova, and they're going to get taken down. We see on the back line, Kalua and NEBULAE very low, but on the front line there is Amox Blaze blazing away against Truffy's and burning them down. A very fitting name for a Scarf player, and this might be the debut we need to see, the jungle Blaze. Maybe this was the Herovania play. Of course, Scarf very meta at the moment, and you know, if you can really push them well into the late game, Scarf becomes this unbeatable powerhouse. So yeah, I mean, a great pickup, and as I said, in the tough phase, to see coming out from J3X Inferno, a lot more favorable than last time and a lot more meta than last time.
Definitely, but there is one thing you must note as well. I was hoping for J3X, or rather the side of NEBULAE, to actually pick up a Celeste for themselves, to try their bestest to outpoke the side of J3X Inferno. However, we do not see that coming out. Instead, we see a CP Black Feather, and I guess this is the reason why, because CP Black Feather really wants to go into the back lines to try to take out a Amox Blaze on that little Firecracker Dragon. But they will go on to the turret and successfully siege the first turret of J3X Inferno.
Yep, and it looks like they shall, but in return, they might need J3X Inferno now push in with those Spitfires, doing a lot of damage, and there's really nothing they can do, and there's the return turret coming up from J3X Inferno. So it's not so one-sided as the previous match, and in fact, looking a bit more even, and if anything, in favor of J3X Inferno for a lot of the early games so far. I mean, we look at the farm of the overall gold economy for both teams, and we see that J3X Inferno sitting at 17 free point K over to the 16.9 on the side of NEBULAE, so very close, and one team fight could really swing that around, especially with Goldmine already being at its full capture rate, and if any team takes this, could really take the lead, especially after game with gold for kill bounties as well that you have to account for. And just looking back at Amox Blaze and Saiyajin in the jungle, they're both very even. When Amox Blaze actually went to buy that Frostburn, if they had, I believe it's like 90 more gold, they could have bought Shatterglass. Of course, maybe not the right item for a Scarf, but they could have been able to do it, where we saw Saiyajin with only a Shatterglass and no extra items. And now it looks like the lGame ready to fight. The Arcane passage was used. There's going to be the Divine Intervention, and Kahlua going so very low. One shot, one kill going to come through onto NEBULAE. Here's going to be the chase coming through by Saiyajin. He managed to pick up the going to pick up Kahlua. And is he going to go for the chase down onto Amox Blaze? He might just do it. There's the goop. It looks like Kestrel going to come in from the backline. Truffy's on this Kestrel, very low in energy, however, needs to be careful. But Amox Blaze going in with the Dragon's Breath, trying to do what they can, but massive damage coming out from the CP Black Feather. But Amox Blaze is just going to turn around with the goop, the Spitfire, catching him out, managing to get the trade out kill. This fight going on a bit longer than NEBULAE would have liked to, and it looks like they won't be able to catch out Amox Blaze in the end. So great job by Amox Blaze on the Scarf, being able to really just stay alive and even get a kill for himself.
Yeah, but honestly, back to draft itself, I want to really say that the weapon Black Feather and of course that of a CP Casual were a little better as compared to, what they have for themselves right now, because they are kind of struggling, but Saiyajin.
Yep, it looks like Saiyajin going to back out of that fight, and just so much damage coming out from both teams at this point, and it's a very exciting match to watch when it's so close. Of course, I said before, looks like it's slightly in favor of J3X Inferno at this point, but really when you look at the kills, you look at the gold, it's barely any different.
Yep, I mean, all in all, they are looking rather even for both NEBULAE and the sort of J3X Inferno. I must say, Amox Blaze on this Scarf definitely putting out a lot of work, as with those glimmer shots that's coming out from Trophies as well.
Yep, and Divine Intervention is used on NEBULAE, standing still, and they are open and vulnerable to the attack of NEBULAE, but NEBULAE not wanting to go in, because I think they're starting to learn the lesson. You dive in onto Kahlua, and Kahlua is going to land those Holy Novas. We've seen it too many times before, and it really helps turn the fire around for the side of J3X, and could be the second Tyrant's Monocle pickup on Trophies. This is a big power spike for them if they choose to fight on it, and it looks like they are trying to just get some poke damage down into that enemy brush, but they're not going to really be able to follow up on anything at the moment. They don't know, I'm pretty sure they don't know that NEBULAE is actually quite low in energy, and this would be a great time for them to fight, as the rest of NEBULAE actually all full of health and full energy at this point.
Yep, I mean, they can definitely go in for a team fight right now. NEBULAE is just clearing wave alone in that of the lane, but all in all, they will just back off. They will respect the fact that Amox Blaze on that Scarf has got a ton of damage under those Dragon's Breath or even Spitfire and good combo. And they will respect that, they will back off, but all in all, like on my point before that, I personally think that a weapon Black Feather would have just done so much better in terms of this team comp and the execution of the team comp, only because weapon Black Feather generally settle for a breaking point, Serpent's Mask, and will tank up, whereas for a CP Black Feather, your Broken Myth, your Shattered Glass is very prioritized over those defense items, and you can't quite stay in teamfights for a very long time, as the bulk of the damage will come out from your on point, which will make you very similar to that of Trophies on that of weapon Castro, where the bulk of damage will come out from those glimmer shots and not your basic attacks. However, the side of NEBULAE may be looking for something right now, just pushing the wave in, 420, blaze it, that damage onto Kahlua on that grid.
Yeah, and we see NEBULAE coming up back. get damage. Sajin, however, low on defense, only with that light armor, is going to take a lot more from that box, who's diving in there with a divine intervention coming up to them. It's a great combination there as he's able to get into the backline and still remain healthy enough, and Kahlua going to jump in, trying to follow through, not able to land the Holy Nova as Sajin and Doubtfire are running away, but Spitfire does manage to land onto Doubtfire, and now they're going to have to be careful as the side of J3X Inferno trying to push onto this turret. They only have half a minion. It's not going to be enough, but Kahlua not afraid to jump in there. There's going to be a bright bulwark to stop them from escaping, but they're going to manage to anyway, and now turning their attention to this gold miner. Finally, the gold miner that's been full, and no one's taken it for so long. J3X Inferno finally finding the opportunity to do so, and the one-shot, one-kill will get blocked out. Scarf managing to secure that one for their team, but whether NEBULAE are looking for some kind of compensation, some kind of revenge at this point, we'll have to see, as Truffy's going in deep on that weapon power Kestrel.
Yep, but they will just back off altogether, and in the end, there is really nothing much the side of NEBULAE can do now. They have a very strong siege comm with the CP Black Feather, all in all, but I think their priority really should protect Truffy's. I mean, looking at Truffy's build, he is going full glass cannon at this point in time. Sorrow Blade into Tyrant's Monaco, double Tyrant's Monaco, and going into the Bone Sword, but Truffy's now.
Yeah, it looks like they are going to get jumped. Doubtfire actually the one lowest. NEBULAE full, and Truffy's not really finding the glimmer shots they need to. There's not enough return damage coming out from the side of NEBULAE, even though they have the potential to do so. You see how much Sajin can put out, but just doesn't have the opportunity to get in there and really show it. It does manage to steal that camp away, or secure it, I should say, as it was their own in the first place to begin with. But in another 5 seconds, we will see the Kraken coming up onto the fold, and just seeing how much damage J3X Inferno can put down at the moment, I wouldn't be surprised if they try sneak one out behind the side of NEBULAE.
I mean, at this point in time, they are, and they have a team comp that can take objectives relatively fast. I mean, maybe even faster as compared to the side of NEBULAE, but all in all, they are very cautious, and cautious in terms of how they are going into team fights, in terms of how they are playing, including the side of NEBULAE, who can obviously put out so much damage, trophies at least, on those glimmer shots in which he's not finding at all. And his basic attacks, he don't really have to just rely purely on those glimmer shots to put out outrageous amount of damage. His basic attacks will hurt and will hit like a truck. And Sajin really has to learn to just go in and not just play like a mage with those on point. Granted, that is where your bulk of the damage is. But as a Black Feather, really you want to fight in the front line, maybe just taking out Nibimim on that of Fox, or even just dive into the back lines. Wait for it, comes out.
Ooh, Kahlua going in deep now is going to be up to to clean up the kill, helping them secure trophies, and they're now following through, trying to pick up Sajin on Doubtfire, who's very low, manages to get hit by the Spitfire as Unlock's Blaze picks it up, and the ace going over to Nibim and the side of J3X Inferno. They're now going to be able to take a Kraken and possibly the anchor turret as well, as there's still another 7 seconds before Trophies is up. They get that tier 2 turret to start with, but they're not going to push in the minions anymore. Instead, Nibim going to go back to the Kraken to help his team, but it's basically captured already, where the Trophies is going to do an amazing one-shot, one-kill. No, it doesn't look like it, and J3X Inferno already doing a great job of body blocking for that Kraken.
That one-shot, one-kill, however, to land on Nibim on this Fox, but Fox will just all be well. Dandy healed up by that mid-treant and will go alongside Kraken for the siege, and possibly able to just end this game out. It's looking rather even. I don't want to say it's looking rather even, but it's just a reflection of deja vu of the previous match, where NEBULAE was just on top of the line, on top of the food chain, and in this game itself, we have J3X Inferno on that food chain and be the praise at this point in time. And we do see the amount of damage that the side of NEBULAE has, but they are just so hesitant into, you know, just devoting and committing into any team fights, and just allowing the side of J3X Inferno hold that damage on Nibim though.
But NEBULAE going to get healed up with the Divine and J3X Inferno not on aggressive. We're cracking in, and they're only going to be able to get the turret out there. They did get the second base turret, though, very low on HP, so it still is kind of worth for them to have that Kraken. I mean, they'll have another opportunity in a few minutes to take Kraken again, but really not making the most out of that Kraken push and providing the side of NEBULAE with an opportunity for comeback, especially into the late game. I understand that Amox plays on this Scarf and Vox, NEBULAE on this Vox, both very good late game heroes, but you know, anything can happen. If they're caught out in this position and NEBULAE are able to pick up on those mistakes, then you know, they might be able to turn this one around. They have the damage on the side of NEBULAE, they just need to utilize it. And meanwhile, for J3X Inferno, they had the objective control with that Kraken. They just needed to utilize that if they wanted to shut out.
Oh, Doubtfire will be caught out.
Caught out on their own. Uses the Arcane Passage to get out there. Amox play is going to follow through. The wait for it was used, but they're not going to be able to find Doubtfire as they managed to run away. But now that does mean that Arcane Passage is not available, and it looks like they might even catch out Truffy's here. Truffy's on the backline, going down to the Vox, and Amox is going to pop that Dragon's Breath, chasing down the Black Feather, who managed to land the on point and uses the Imperial Sigil to get away. But look at this now, J3X Inferno have an easy job of pushing through back and finishing off, pushing through this time, finishing off what Kraken had started, and it's up to Sergeant to put down the damage and force away J3X Inferno, but they have too much damage they're putting down in return. They're going to be able to take the turret. Looks like they should be able to take the Crystal. Sergeant going to jump onto NEBULAE, and they manage to take him down, but Scarf, meanwhile, on that backline, unchecked and unmanned, manages to take down the Crystal. And this time, J3X Inferno coming through with the win, 11-5 kills at 19 minutes 55 in.
And this is the issue, as we all can see. The amount of damage that Trophies can put out onto Kahlua or the entirety of J3X Inferno was just so great, but they are just so hesitant into committing into team fights. I'm not sure as to because Sergeant is not tanky enough to go in, or even in the early game after the Shatter Glass, one should genuinely want to build, you know, your first reflex block or certain shieldings or armor against the one that you want to jump onto, but that didn't quite happen. And the side of J3X Inferno just put out such good performance, pushing the advantage and just capitalizing on every small mistakes that, you know, NEBULAE is just putting out.
Yeah, and I personally, in my own speculation, I think that at the moment, like, Lyra is a good support, but with the amount of burst in the meta, the current meta, and the amount of burst damage and sustained just burst damage, if you would like to call it that, I'm not sure if that counts as burst, but even with Sky, because Scarf, I mean, Scarf is an interesting hero where you have these moments of burst, but then it's also the elongated damage, the damage over time with the goop if you're going to be standing in that. So just against those heroes, I don't think Lyra is so effective. I said it in the draft that, you know, Lyra just isn't such a good healer, and we're getting out away from that healer meta more so into just more aggressive roamers, and that's why, you know, heroes like this Grace are just a great pickup, because you still have that healing in your kit, but you can play aggressively as well, and you have the CC there. And I think that's what Lyra is really lacking. So personally, I just saw that J3X Inferno with the better draft for that one were the contenders to win that fight, even though they had lost to NEBULAE in the first matchup. But it does show that even in play, that the first match to go over to NEBULAE and followed up by that second going over to J3X Inferno. So yeah.
Yep, I mean, honestly, all in all, I personally think that a Weapon Black Feather would have done so much better as compared to a CP Black Feather. And then, of course, you have to put that Castro in that of the jungle to run its CP. But all in all, what is done is done. Good luck for them for the next game, which will not be streamed, and they will be playing it offline. We will definitely update the viewers